making movements on minor 7 flat 5 chords, wonderful with particular Barry Harris movements. We're going to learn how to set them up, how to do them, some examples as well. So let's get into it. Well, when you take a minor 6 chord, now I know I said we'd be talking about minor 7 flat 5s, which we will, but they come from this, because if you see this C minor 6, 1, flat 3, 5, and a natural 6, and if you invert it down, you get A minor 7, flat 5. There's the flat 5, right? A minor 7, flat 5. So they have the same notes. And that also means they have a special relationship in terms of movements. Because when we take the C minor 6, by the way, just basic stuff, inverting your C minor 6 is up and down. You're also inverting your A minor 7 flat 5s up and down at the same time, so knowing those relationships will help even with those basic little things. Now, when you take the C minor 6 chord and add a D diminished chord, you end up with movements. That's really it. There are many, many possibilities. The possibilities are endless, but they come from this. What we do is we take a C minor 6, D diminished, and then we invert the C minor 6, invert the D diminished, invert the C minor 6, invert the D diminished, invert the C minor 6, invert the D diminished, and back to C minor 6. Now that's something I've spoken about before, so that's the amount of detail I'll go into about the basics of the scale. Let's get into how we can start to use it. Well, if we take C minor 6 and think, oh, well, we know that's also A minor 7 flat 5. I just got to change my shell, right? 1/7 shell, bottom note, top note. Simple stuff, just going through the scale. For example, now what normally comes after A minor 7 flat 5? If you know your progressions, you'll know that we expect a D7 next, because it doesn't always happen, but most of the time we'll get a D7 next, because that gives us what we call a minor 2/5. Get A minor 7 flat 5 to D7, some kind of D7. I'll take a simple one, D7 with its corresponding diminished voicing on top, where the 1 has moved up a half step. I teach that, so I'll link that below. Normally we'll go to some kind of G minor, either a minor 6 or a minor 7th, okay? So now, movement-wise, stuff like that starts to come out. So what happened? We had minor 6, because it went 1, 2, move, that gave us a space. So in the left hand, 1, 2, bottom note, top note, just to fill some time, okay? 1, 2, move, D7, invert that diminished, because that's a diminished that goes with D7, back to G minor. So here it is without the talking. Notice when I inverted that diminished on D7, which is a different story, right? Fill in the shell when it gets empty, otherwise that's too much space between the hands, right? There are many other things we can do with the D7, but this lesson we're just going to keep it about the movements on the A minor 7 flat 5. If you're enjoying this, would you please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and if you've got something good to say, a positive comment is always lovely too. It's helping us to grow and do more of this for you on YouTube. And if you'd like to learn more about chord movements and get your two-handed playing and movements happening well, then consider joining us on Jazz Skills. More about that at the end. Let's get back into the lesson. Okay, let's see a couple of other things we could do. Let's say if we went minor 6, any minor 6, right? C minor 6, but any inversion. C minor 6, C minor 6. Then I'll go to the diminished and invert that. Invert the next minor 6. So 1 and 2 and 3 and then we could go to some kind of D7. I've got that same diminished I had earlier, but I've moved that A up. So this is a sharp 5 chord. Again, we'll do things like this maybe another day. I think I'd like to go to a G minor 6, maybe with its 2 on top, something like that. Some kind of G minor, right? Notice in the left hand, when we're on minor 6, notes in the right hand, we try and take -6 notes in the left hand. So these are the minor notes, right? And these are the diminished notes from the scale we were talking about. Incidentally, if we put those two chords together, you can see how the whole scale works. That's the scale, right? The -6 chord plus the diminished chord. It's like the ascending melodic minor, people who know their minors properly, plus the harmonic minor, because the harmonic minor does this. The ascending melodic, which we use in this kind of stuff, is just that. Put them together and you end up with this. Okay, that's the whole scale, but we were playing it in chords. So let's do it like this. So we've got a minor note to the next minor note. Look at the left hand. Right hand's going down, left hand's going up. Hands crash, no problem. Okay, so this is minor note to minor note, diminished note to diminished note, minor to minor, diminished to diminished. Something like that. Now, we don't always have to move all the notes through the scale. Sometimes we'll just move a couple of notes. Okay, here's one. Here's the C-6 again. Now, if I just take the top and bottom notes, up to diminished notes, these are our diminished notes, remember? So if I just take the top and bottom up to diminished notes, we'll get this, right? Of course, more tension. And we'll release them back to their minor notes. So we had D and B here. I'm just going to switch it. So instead of DB that are moving, I'm going to make it BD. Same notes in a different place, right? So there's D and B moving back to minor notes. There's B and D moving back to minor notes, right? So we end up with this. Some kind of D7. These go nice to major, by the way. Also fine. They can go to major or minor, but we normally expect them to go to minor. Here's the opposite of that. So first we began with the top and bottom, and then the top two, right? Well, let's do the opposite. So how about if we go back to that D7 with a sharp 5. We'll go to G minor this time. This is a -6 with the 2 at the top. This is also a diminished note in a different key. This is, again, for another day, but all these different movements come in. Because actually we can make movements throughout this progression using -6 diminished. So for more advanced people, you may start thinking, okay, well, C-6 or C-6 is A half diminished. Well, guess what? We get an E flat -6 on D7. So we'd then learn the E flat -6 diminished scale and its movements, right? So we could have moves on both of those. And then we land on G-6. So we could have moves on G-6 diminished. So if you use all of them, you can end up with stuff that sounds like this. So all kinds of things start happening when you start messing with -6 and diminished chords together. Now, all of these things happen in time. That was, further study, but that's hopefully enough to inspire you to at least learn the C-6 ones and make that connection between -6 chords and their corresponding -7 flat 5 chords. I hope you found that useful, and if it's time to level up your jazz playing, then come and see us on Jazz Skills. We've got lessons for you, a developing fluency course, even if it's too early for you to be applying movements and you just need to get that language down, get progressions happening, get more freedom so you're not playing everything the same way every time. You can remember more than the last 2 tunes you learned. If you're more advanced, we'll go into voicings, improvisation, these sorts of chord movements, accompanying, all kinds of things. You'll also find a vibrant Jazz Skills community, plus help from me where I answer all your questions too. So hope to see you there. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.